In tonight's news edition, Iraqi army forces and Shiite militiamen launch a counter-offensive against Daesh near Ramadi, while in Syria, Daesh terrorists are said to have raised their flag on the historic city of Palmyra. The 9th World Economic Forum ends by the shores of the Dead Sea following 3 days of sessions and workshops aimed at creating prosperity for the MENA region. And the UN High Commissioner for Refugees says the international community must do more to shoulder the burden of the refugee crisis fueled by the conflict in both Syria and Iraq. Good evening and welcome to the news at 10. His Majesty the King has condemned the terrorist attack that targeted a mosque in the Saudi eastern province of Qatif yesterday, claiming the lives of innocent people. In the cable to Saudi King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, His Majesty expressed his strong condemnation of such terrorist and criminal acts. King Abdullah also offered his condolences to the Saudi king and Saudi people for the victims who fell in the attack and wished the injured a speedy recovery. And to the latest on Daesh and their advances in Iraq and Syria. Iraqi army forces and Shiite militiamen launched a counter-offensive against Daesh near Ramadi, aiming to reverse what is seen as potentially devastating gains by the terrorists. A spokesman for Shiite parliamentary group said more than 2,000 reinforcements have joined the pro-government advance, and they managed to secure Khalidiyya and the road linking it to Habbaniyah. The fall of Ramadi, the capital of Anbar province, to Daesh last week gave the terrorist group control over most of Anbar. A UN spokesman said yesterday that some 55,000 people have fled Ramadi since it was stormed by Daesh earlier this month, with most taking refuge in other parts of Anbar. Daesh terrorists, meanwhile, have been pushing towards Fallujah, hoping to gain territory to bring them closer to Baghdad. And in Syria, the terrorist group raised their flag over the ancient citadel in the historic city of Palmyra, according to pictures posted online overnight by the group. Daesh seized the city on Wednesday after days of heavy fighting with the Syrian army. The city is strategically significant, with nearby natural gas fields and reeds leading north-southwest to Damascus. Palmyra is also home to a UNESCO World Heritage Site that hosts 2,000-year-old ruins, including well-preserved Roman temples, colonnades, and a theater. While hundreds of statues have been taken to safe locations, there are fears for larger monuments that cannot be moved. Some reports claim that more than 200 Syrian soldiers died in the battle for the city in the center of Syria. Meanwhile, Arab army chiefs met at the Arab League headquarters in Cairo to discuss regional threats, including a unified military force proposed at Sharm el-Sheikh summit earlier this year. Egyptian Army Chief of Staff Mahmoud Hijazi, who headed the summit, said it was important that the unified military force plan be implemented before June 29th. He said the June 29 deadline would provide enough time for negotiations and amendments. Over the past 24 hours, the U.S.-led coalition staged 22 airstrikes on Daesh, including 4 near Ramadi. A statement from the Combined Joint Task Force said coalition forces also attacked 5 Daesh sites in Syria. The strikes near Ramadi hit tactile units, armored vehicles, and a fighting position in militant-controlled territory. Other U.S.-led attacks in Iraq were near the cities of Bayji, Fallujah, Haditha, Kirkuk, Makhmur, Mosul, Sinjar, and Tal Afar. In Syria, airstrikes near Al-Hasaka, Deir el-Zur, Kobani, and Tadmur destroyed fighting positions, a tank, and 6 anti-aircraft artillery systems. And in the war against the Houthis in Yemen, Saudi-led airstrikes hit 3 military bases in the capital, Sana'a. Residents said the air raids hit a munition store in one of the bases, setting off a large explosion. Yemen's exiled government in Saudi Arabia, headed by President Abd Rabbo Mansour Hadi, expressed reluctance to attend UN-sponsored peace talks set for May 28 in Geneva. A spokesman said the Houthis and their powerful ally, ex-President Ali Abdullah Saleh, should first commit to a UN Security Council resolution demanding they withdraw from Yemen's main cities. The spokesman, Rajah Badi, told Al Arabiya TV the discussion to hold the Geneva conference needs more time and arrangements, adding that the Houthi militia and Saleh have not recognized President Hadi's legitimacy and have given no explicit, clear reaction to Resolution 2216. The 9th World Economic Forum ended by the shores of the Dead Sea, this year convening under the theme Creating a Regional Framework for Prosperity and Peace Through Public-Private Cooperation. Testimony to Jordan's key position in the region and the stability it enjoys in a turbulent neighborhood, 19 agreements and joint projects worth $6.9 billion were signed yesterday at the forum. The agreements covering a wide range of sectors and aim to develop the kingdom's economic reforms and create innovative employment opportunities. This afternoon, and in remarks at the closing ceremony, founder and executive chairman of WEF, Klaus Schwab, thanked His Majesty the King and Her Majesty the Queen for their big support to the forum. The past 3 days of intense meetings, sessions, and workshops dealt with a host of issues, foremost how to address the challenges facing the youth in the MENA region and how to improve the political and socio-economic conditions of the people, especially the millions of refugees and displaced persons. Director of WEF MENA Merrick Dusek wrapped up the meeting, raised 2 questions for the delegates: what have we learned during the past days, and what are the key ideas we will take home? Private-public partnership is crucial to address the various issues, he said, especially in confronting the threats from radicalism and extremism. He said this will be the joint responsibility of governments, civil society, and academia, and urged work towards fulfilling a commitment to create 100,000 jobs by 2017. On the sidelines of the last day of the World Economic Forum, Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour reiterated Jordan's support to Iraq in countering terrorism. Mansour held separate meetings with the 2 Iraqi deputy prime ministers, Rawshi Nouri Shwaiz and Baha al-Araji, on the current security challenges facing the country. The 2 deputies briefed Mansour on developments on the ground, in particular in Anbar Governorate. The meetings also tackled bilateral cooperation, namely upcoming steps to implement the oil pipeline project between the 2 countries, as well as the land route repair works and an electricity and railway linkage between Jordan and Iraq. President of the Republic of Kosovo, Atifet Yahya Agha, attended the World Economic Forum for the first time, commending Jordan-Kosovo ties, which she said can be bolstered further. Speaking to News at 10 Alia Tuqan, the president also said that Jordan and Kosovo share common values and common interests to address the threats of extremism.
And Kosovo enjoys a very good friendly relation between us and between our citizens, and Jordan is not only one of the very first countries which has recognized our independence as the country, but it is also a very strong supporter on consolidating our state outside and particularly into the international scene. And yes, indeed, we have spoken a variety of the opportunities where Kosovo and Jordan can strengthen the relation between ourselves, because we have so far an excellent bilateral relation, but this now has to be expanding in the fields which are of the more interest towards our citizens, particularly into the trade and into the economic development and into the investment side. And hopefully very soon we'll have the visit of His Majesty in Kosovo, and we would be able to address concretely what would be the fields of the cooperation, because Kosovo, no matter that we are far away from the distance between both of our country, and Kosovo sits in the most important routes of the east and the west, and we are almost in the heart of the Europe. And so we have a huge potential of the investment, of the economic growth in the country, but likewise within your country, within the leadership of His Majesty, it's enormous opportunities in this country that can be exploited by our side as well.
Also attending the World Economic Forum, UN High Commissioner for Refugees Antonio Guterres said the international community must do more to shoulder the burden of the refugee crisis, fueled by the conflicts in both Syria and Iraq, that is stretching the limited resources of neighboring countries like Jordan to breaking point. News at 10 Farah Ajlouni sat down with Guterres to talk about what the international community can do to ease the suffering of refugees and assist host communities.
The worst humanitarian crisis since the Second World War. Now, just talk about registered refugees. Almost 4 million, 7.6 million people displaced inside Syria. Now Syria-Iraq is the same crisis. Iraq, almost 3 million displaced internally and externally. And it is a dramatic impact of the crisis in the neighboring countries. Jordan, Lebanon especially are having a huge impact of the Syria crisis, the presence of refugees, the security dimension of the Syrian crisis in the economy, in the society, in the educational systems, the health systems, water, electricity, everything is being terribly impacted. Jobs, the living conditions of the Jordanian families and the Lebanese families. And so this is the moment in which the international community needs to understand that this cannot go on as business as usual. This is unsustainable. So much more humanitarian aid is necessary because refugees are living in very dire conditions, but we need a structural support, budget support and resilience support to the neighboring countries in order to allow those neighboring countries to preserve their stability, to preserve the living conditions of their citizens, and to be able to cope with this dramatic challenge. And international solidarity has not been enough. The international community has not yet fully assumed its responsibilities, and the Syrian refugee crisis is not only a crisis for Jordan or for Lebanon, it's a crisis for everybody, and everybody must do more. And I've been appealing to the G7, to the G20, to those that really have the command of these systems.
From infrastructure and healthcare to youth unemployment, top quotes by leaders and speakers at this year's World Economic Forum appeared on the official website of the WEF MENA 2015. Let's take a look at the top quotes from the forum. Stressed over your next job interview? Don't be, because compared to what most Chinese children have to go through to get into kindergarten, even the toughest job interview may be a piece of cake. Many toddlers are attending courses to prepare them in order to secure a place at one of Hong Kong's top kindergartens. Parents believe that getting a place in a good kindergarten will help them secure a spot in a good primary and secondary school and pave the way for a good start in life. With the competition being so fierce, sought-after schools can be selected about who they let in. In one session, children are asked to demonstrate how to drink water, pick a doll of his gender, and answer questions in Cantonese and English. The school's principal said 500 students enrolled in the course last year, and she's expecting more this year. World number one Serena Williams believes she was right to withdraw from the Italian Open to rest a sore elbow and is now ready to start her quest for a 20th Grand Slam title at the French Open. The American withdrew before her third-round match in Rome last week because of a right elbow injury, avoiding the same kind of mistake that hampered her Roland Garros chances last year. Williams feels she is now in good shape and she looks to lift the Suzanne Langley Cup for the third time. World number one Novak Djokovic was as relaxed as Serena and spoke about the possibility of facing Rafael Nadal in the quarterfinals of the French Open. Djokovic begins his campaign against Finnish Jarkko Niemi tomorrow. Formula One world champion Lewis Hamilton took the first Monaco Grand Prix pole position of his career as Mercedes teammate Nico Rosberg blew his own hopes of a qualifying hat-trick. Sebastian Vettel will start third for Ferrari tomorrow after struggling to get heat into his tires with his former Red Bull. And finally, cool weather continues for the rest of the evening in most regions with partly cloudy skies and northwesterly light to moderate winds. A rise in temperature is expected tomorrow, but remains around their seasonal average with moderate summer conditions. Winds will be northwesterly moderate. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect hot conditions tomorrow with fresh winds and calm seas. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. To end the news, here's a reminder of our top stories. Iraqi army forces and Shiite militiamen launch a counter-offensive against Daesh near Ramadi, while in Syria, Daesh terrorists are said to have raised their flag on the historic city of Palmyra. The 9th World Economic Forum ends by the shores of the Dead Sea following 3 days of sessions and workshops aimed at creating prosperity for the MENA region. And the UN High Commissioner for Refugees says the international community must do more to shoulder the burden of the refugee crisis fueled by the conflicts in both Syria and Iraq. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news. I'm Nancy Khair. Thank you for watching and have a good night.